Hello there. Lord Intellectual, why are we here, I hear you ask? Well, that's a rather profound question, viewer, but the reason we're here today, specifically, is because Hollywood gets it wrong. And watching it from Hollywood and feeling it in the moment are two entirely different experiences. And I can assure you that nothing can prepare you for the first time someone puts their chain into your hands. Now, everyone always starts there. Everyone always imagines themselves as being the one holding the chain. But I want you to come with me. We're going to go through a thought experiment, and I hope to reveal something to you about yourself in this. And it will also help you be a better partner, which we're going to circle back around to in a moment. So I want you to imagine having someone that you want to take your chain. I want you to imagine the complete and absolute surrender of your autonomy into the hands of someone you trust at a deep and intimate level. I want you to imagine being able to cast aside all of your defenses, the cynicism, the dark humor, the detachment, the indifference, all of these things that we build up over the course of the day to protect ourselves from the world, and to be truly seen by someone when you are at your most vulnerable with all the pretense, all the plausible deniability stripped away. To have a person that you care so deeply for look at you without any mask, at your ugliest and your most bare, and still have them truly and unreservedly want you. This is a level of euphoria that I hope each of you get to experience at least once in your lives. Now, I want you to take that. I want you to take those feelings and that imagination, and let's return back to the original assumption, where someone going through all of this has put that chain into your hands. Feel that chain, feel the weight in your hand, in your dominant hand. You will be amazed and a little frightened as it starts to dawn on you just how great the lengths that you will go to in order to protect this beautiful, intricate, overlooked partner of yours. The surge of power within you as you realize you would reshape the world for them with the earth just being so much raw clay in your hands. Am I starting to get through to you? Welcome, one and all. It is a pleasure. If you are not familiar with myself, I do typically do political content. So this is a bit of a stray outside of the usual topics of my videos, but it is an area in which I am intimately familiar. And being Lord Intellectual, it is all about that sharing of knowledge. And I believe the time is right to give you some of that knowledge. So I have put together this little presentation, let's say, about how to dip your toes into the water, because I do care about you, and this is a very exciting period when you do start to get involved in it, and I want to make sure that you're all doing it safely. So we are going to have some people who are part of the BDSM community in here, and if you are, please drop by the comments and have a look at what people are saying, because we are going to have a lot of, let's say, eager newbies down in the comments asking about this, and it would be a great time to help them into the community as well. But moving past that, let's focus on some core tenets. I've prepared some of these for you, and if there's going to be one thing you take away from this video, I want you to understand that whether it's BDSM or basically anything else in life, but particularly in this line of interest, you need to understand that the most important thing is consent and aftercare. And if anyone in the community or pretending to be in the community ignores either of these, they are not someone you want to associate with. We always need to establish consent. And you might not know what aftercare is. We'll swing back around to that in a little bit. But everyone dips their toes into this line at some point, and it usually starts with restricting movement. That's one of the best ways to build trust. But you're not going to do any of that unless you have pre-discussed that consent. All consent needs to be discussed prior to make sure that everyone is going to be, most importantly, safe, secondly, comfortable, and being able to release themselves. So starting slow is probably the most important thing that you can do. When you're selecting a dom or a submissive, what you want to look for is someone who asks you, someone who learns you, someone who respects you enough to say no, whilst also willing enough to say yes. It's good to start with restricted movement to build that trust. The process is slower than you might expect because in order to truly let yourself go, to truly be able to enjoy yourself, you need to have a deep and intimate trust in your partner. And at the start, you'll be a little giddy, you'll be a little excited, and that's cute. Enjoy yourself, your partner, your time together, have fun. But you'll come to realize the depth of intimacy, passion, and especially surrender when you truly trust in your partner. It just can't be rivaled by sex alone. Now, allow me to share some of my knowledge with you, both to keep you safe and help you to be a better partner. Now, when you start restricting movement, a lot of people will start with the handcuffs. Now, if you didn't know this, there are different grades of handcuffs, and usually when you just go to your local special interest shop, shall we say, the handcuffs you'll get there are actually quite easy to get out of. It does depend, so do be cautious. Most of them you will be able to force open with enough strength, but depending on the position you're in, that can be uncomfortable, to say the least. But most will also have a very large lever that is fairly easy to push from any position that will immediately release you. So we get to the idea of building trust. So you're not going to be able to jump straight into the deep end in most cases where you're fully tied up. If you're a rope bunny, you are going to have to build up to that. But these handcuffs, having them clasped closed with your arms behind your back puts you in a vulnerable position. And I would suggest you actually start standing or sitting down in a seated position rather than lying down. So you get used to the idea that your partner is going to have power over you, or you're going to have power over your partner. And it's power that can be reversed at a moment's notice. And that's important because later on, as we get deeper and deeper into this, we're going to get into situations where it is harder to get out of. And at some point, you will detach from the shore and you will be floating in open water. And the only person who's going to be able to bring you back is your partner. And when you reach that moment of finally letting go of the shore, it can be a daunting experience. And a lot of people do tend to lose their nerve around this point. And that is entirely acceptable. You can withdraw your consent at any point. Clear communication is key here. So if you're finding yourself in a position with a partner who frequently ignores your consent, pushes through boundaries, goes faster than you're comfortable with, then you need to call that and you need to stop that. It doesn't matter how far you have come already. You can always stop at the point you're at. You don't have to go further. You are under no obligation. And your partner, if they are a good partner, should respect that. And when you are floating out on the open water, it is an experience in and of itself. And being the lifeline for that person is also it is a great honor. There's a great deal of satisfaction in that, knowing that you could damage this person, and the person knowing that you could damage them, but having that trust that they won't. And this is what it is all about. And this is why we build up to it slowly. And the first step to doing that is that restriction of movement. Start with those cuffs behind your back, sitting or standing. Once you are comfortable with that, once your partner has demonstrated that they can be trusted, and this is not all an elaborate ruse, because we are dealing with psychology here. And like it or not, on some level, there will be a self-preservation instinct within you that will say, this is a trick, this is a scam. I have been duped, and as soon as they have me in a compromising position, it is all going to go bad for me. And that is the instinct that we are trying to overcome, because until you do that, you're not going to be able to truly let yourself go and truly enjoy yourself. And that enjoyment is what we are after here today. Enjoyment whilst maintaining that safety. Okay? Now, once we have restricted movement, let's move on to choking, because this is, in my opinion, we get into some editorializing here, but this is the next logical step, because once your movement is restricted, okay, fairly easy to get out of, but you're not in an immediate microsecond danger. But if your partner has their hand around your throat, especially if they are larger and stronger than you, then your body starts to hit panic mode, or at some level, there is an instinct There is an instinct there, a survival instinct that kicks in that tells you should not be in this situation. And this is where we start to get into those heightened emotions and those heightened feelings and that giddiness, that flight or flight response that is so, I'm going to use the term delectable, but insert whichever word you like here. Just know it is an experience, and I want you to imagine your partner looking down at you with their hands around your throat and the compromising position you are going to be in and the thrill that comes with that. Now, there's two primary methods for choking, or two primary goals for choking. Now, the vast majority of the BDSM community will tell you about the restriction of blood flow. And so that's what we're going to go over first. But in my experience, there is a second method, and I fully understand why the BDSM community does not bring that forward as the first thing, because it is a little more dangerous and you do need to know what you're doing. But I will tell you about that, not only so that you can recognize when you're doing things wrong, but so that you do know there are extra steps, and the rabbit hole goes very deep once you start looking into this. So I want you to take your non-dominant hand for me. If you're right-handed, that means your left hand. If you're left-handed, that means your right hand. Now I want you to flatten it into a straight palm, and I want you to spread your thumb and forefinger out. 4 fingers together, 1 thumb apart. Now I want you to press that gently about the middle of your neck, about halfway up your neck, I should say, around your windpipe. Now this is the critical part that a lot of other BDSM creators will talk about. Our goal, at least initially, is not to restrict someone's airflow. That is not what we are trying to do, and that is one of the worst misconceptions that Hollywood gives. What we are doing instead is we are going to press very gently on the sides of the neck where you have a pair of arteries that deliver blood to the brain. And we are going to restrict that blood flow because that is going to starve the brain of oxygen just a little bit, and it's going to, in a lot of people, induce a sense of euphoria. You will experience a tingliness, you will experience a lightheadedness, and combine that with the fact that your adrenaline is already pumping, you're already on high alert, and your partner is in very close physical proximity, we start to get into these feelings of arousal and excitement. So you have your hand placed about midway up your neck, maybe a little higher. This is going to be different for everyone, and it is important you practice on yourself so that you get a feeling for it before you do this to your partner. And especially when you're doing this to your partner for the first time, it is important that both of you have a clear and open line of communication. This is also the point where it is good to have a non-verbal signal. Now, if you're struggling to come up with them in the moment, just make it a simple wave of the hand. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to overthink it. So place your hand into your neck, and I want you to turn your fingers inward. So the pads on the tips of your finger are facing towards your neck. Now, with your fingers about halfway down your, depth-wise, halfway down your neck, I want you to start pressing in very, very slowly and very, very lightly. Now, if you're doing this right, it might be a little uncomfortable if you've never had it done to you before, but it should not hurt. If you're experiencing any pain, stop immediately. You might be pressing onto one of your lymph nodes. There's a lot of sensitive things in your neck, which is partly why it's such an erogenous zone, because it is a very vulnerable part of our bodies, and it is something that you do need a high level of trust to give to in order to give your partner access to that. So press your fingers in very lightly. And as you do that, you'll start to feel your own pulse. You'll start to feel some pressure in your head. You'll obviously feel pressure in your neck. But the harder you press, slowly, the pulse will become stronger. And as the pulse becomes stronger, you'll start to realize, oh, the blood is restricting a little bit. Now, I want you to pay attention to the sensation of this, because this is what your partner is going to be going through as you do it. I know you're going to be excited in the moment, and sometimes it can be difficult to remain in your right mind, but this is important so you don't hurt your partner, and so you do build that trust. So you're pressing into your neck, you're restricting your blood, and keep that going for just a few seconds. If you do start to feel lightheaded, back off a little bit. If it starts to feel too much, back off a little bit. You don't have to get this right on the first try. And now your pulse should be pounding against your fingers. It should be pounding in your head. You should be able to feel it clearly in your neck, and if you can't, adjust your position slightly. What you don't want to do is use the side of your fingers or use the bone or the joint of your fingers. You want to use the softest parts of your hand in order to do this so that you don't damage anything. This is the first method. Now, I want you to imagine doing this or having this done to you in the throes of passion, and this is where we're going to get the enjoyment out of it. And we're going to practice this over and over. I want you to practice this over and over in your own time, because practice makes perfect. And when you are done having your fun, instead focus on the feeling through your fingers, because you're going to be able to feel things within your own neck and within your partner's neck. And this will help you locate those arteries, those veins. It's not quite so distinct all the time. It's difficult to describe. You can feel it, but it's nothing so distinct as a tube or so distinct as a pipe. It's not that clear. Arteries are actually more like wet noodles once you get into it. So that's essentially what you're looking to feel. And follow the guidance of your partner. If they say it's too hard, if they say it's the wrong spot, let go, readjust, try again. Now that is the first method, and that is the method that you use to restrict the blood flow to your partner's head. Now, don't do that too much. Again, start slowly, build up to it. The second method I'm going to show you actually does involve restricting the airway slightly, but we are not going through the front of the neck. I do need to be very clear on that. If you go through the front of the neck and you are not clear on what you're doing, you do have a very good chance of breaking the hymen. Not hymen, what's the word I'm looking for? There is a small bone, hyoid, that's the word I'm looking for. There is a small bone that protects the front of your neck, and if you press too hard on that, because it is a fairly delicate bone, you will break it. And that is a fairly frequent injury in this line, especially in the throes of passion. So this is part of the information I'm giving you that I want you to be careful of. We go through the sides of the neck, not the front. So pull your hand away completely. And I want you to do what you did before. I want you to have your palm flat, 4 fingers together, 1 thumb outstretched. Now I want you to press the crook of your hand strongly against the bottom of your chin, moderately towards the bottom of your chin. And I want you to feel along your jaw. Depending on how long your fingers are and how large your hand and face is, you might be able to get your fingers all the way to the back corner of your jaw where it starts to turn upwards. If you can't reach that far back, that's okay. Don't worry. We don't need to go that far back, but it's just a good place to center yourself on. Now I want you to move your fingers a little ways back towards the front of your neck. You should be just a little bit in front of where your jaw starts to turn upwards. And I want you to press inwards, as before with the soft parts of your hand, of your fingers, but simultaneously I want you to press upwards. And you should feel there is a fairly large amount of resistance there. You should feel something within the neck. And I want you to squeeze on that just a little, a very, very small amount. And as you're breathing, you should feel that even a small amount of pressure dramatically increases the difficulty of breathing. And some people really enjoy that. They like to feel that they are in danger without actually being in danger. So it's okay if you don't enjoy it. It's okay if your partner doesn't enjoy it. This is one of those advanced techniques that I don't want you to start with. I want you to build up to this. And if you are in the BDSM community, leave a comment with your thoughts as well, because I want you to help me explain this to the newbies. You might be able to explain this in a way that will help further clarify things. But when you are restricting the airway, you do need to be conscious that, well, you want to keep your partner conscious. And asphyxiation is one of those things that you don't want to mess around too much with. You should ideally be doing a lot of your own research before attempting all of this. This is just a very high level overview, but it gives you an idea of what you don't want to be doing when you are trying to restrict the arteries as opposed to the airflow. Because when you have this difficulty in breathing, you're not pressing down on the airway, you're not pressing down on the artery, you're pressing down on the airway. So that's something to look out for, so that you know you're doing it wrong, you know to back off, you know to reset, both as someone who is doing this to their partner and as someone having this done to you. So let's recenter now. I've given you 2 different methods that you can try on yourself. But really, the most important thing that I can tell you beyond the consent is the aftercare. Because when we do get into these playgrounds, let's say, it can be very confronting. And we live our lives very defensively. You can make an excuse that it's because of the environment, it's because of society, it's because of this, that, or the other, but ultimately it's irrelevant what causes it. The truth is we do live very defensively, and so being able to surrender like that can be very confronting, and especially when you're new, it can be very upsetting. And so it is extremely important to have a partner that when all is said and done, when you've both had your jollies and they are satisfied, that they still step over that line and make sure you are okay. Proper aftercare will bring you back to a sense of normalcy. You might have just been degraded. You might have just surrendered. You might have given up your autonomy entirely. And now it is time to get that autonomy back from your partner. And this is going to look different to everyone. Some people like to be belittled, they like to be mistreated. Some people like to be told what to do, they like to have someone take charge. Some people like to regain that sense of power for themselves. But a good partner is going to learn what affirmations you want. And when you are the one doing this to a partner, you need to understand your partner is not generic human X. They have a name, they have a life, they have wants and dreams and desires. And if you're the kind of person that can be trusted, they might just look to you to fulfill a lot of them. You need to understand that this is a person you hold great affection for. And it's not about the anatomy. It's not about the pleasure. It's about ensuring this person is safe and healthy when all things are said and done. That if you do need to part, because either they're going home, you're going home, irrelevant, that they are going to be able to return to the world and have their defenses up and be able to navigate day-to-day life. There are a great many self-stylized DOMs out there who do not do aftercare. It's all about the abuse and the mistreatment. And for a small amount of you, that will be fine. As long as you are approaching that with full consent, then that is your choice. But the vast majority, or let me use an anecdote here. Of all the stories that I've heard from this community, the most damaging ones come from DOMs who do not fully understand their position, both of power and their responsibilities for their charge, for their sub. So if you are a sub or you're doing some sub play, it is extremely important that your Dom will do that for you, because it can be very mentally damaging when they don't. And any good Dom will do this. Any good Dom can be that dominant force. They can take charge. They can order you around. They can give you everything you want whilst also looking after you. The moment you say no, they drop it and they go, "Are you okay? What can I do? What do you need from me? Let's stop. Let's talk. Forget about everything else that was going on. What do you need from me?" That is what a good Dom will do. So if you have a Dom that does not do that, you need to seriously consider whether you continue that relationship, because it will damage you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in the long run, that is where we start to run into a lot of issues. And I believe most anyone in the BDSM community will agree with me. So if you find someone who has a differing opinion on that, definitely have your guard up, because that's not the way we want to do that. But once you do find someone who you are able to establish that trust with, then you can get into all the fun things. Like I'm a particular fan of body swings myself. You know, there's a reason you can put hooks in the ceiling. And guys, if some of you are renters and you are wanting to explore this, putting a hook in the ceiling, a very large, heavily bolted hook. I've never had any of the real estate inspectors even notice once I've taken that big silver hook out. So you don't need to worry too much about it. Okay, but with that, guys, I can hear you asking, okay, Lord Intellectual, are you a Dom? Are you a sub? Are you a switch? Well, I'll answer that in a moment. You've been good. You've listened through this whole video. But before I answer that, do allow me to do all of the typical YouTuber things. Like, subscribe, especially if this video is very likely to be age restricted. And you're also going to be asking, well, okay, Lord Intellectual, you typically make political content. Why are you making this video now? Well, this is something I have extensive experience in, so this video was always going to be made regardless. But let's just say it's recently come to my attention that a certain object of my affection may have an interest in this topic. So it got pushed up the priority list. And ultimately, it's serendipity. Today just seemed like a good way to do it. They also might need some help controlling a whip, apparently. But ultimately, if it is to be explored, then I want them and all of you to do so safely. So thank you for that. So now, you've all been good. You've watched this far into the video. So as promised, the answer to the question you're burning to know, no. I am not a dom, nor am I a sub, nor am I a switch. I am what's called a master. Now, what is a master, Lord Intellectual? Well, you'll just have to hope I realize I release another video in this series, eh? Okay. Thank you so much for watching along. Let's finish up there. And if you walk away from this video, I do want to reiterate, imagine that surrender. Both surrendering your own autonomy and having that autonomy surrendered to you. And things will start to become clear. Thank you so much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.